Something happened today that your bank hasn't told you about. Your government hasn't announced it. The news hasn't explained it. But the wealthiest people on earth already know. And they're already moving. You have a window. It's closing. This isn't a war story. Stop thinking about missiles. Stop thinking about ships. The weapon in this conflict doesn't explode, it inflates, and it's already inside your wallet. There is a gap in the ocean, 21 miles wide. That's it, smaller than the distance between some city suburbs. But every single day, 21 million barrels of oil pass through that gap. 1/5 of all the energy the world consumes through a corridor you could drive across in 25 minutes. Now understand what that means. If that gap slows down, your gas bill goes up. If it stops, your grocery bill doubles. If it closes, the economy you have built your entire financial life inside of starts running out of oxygen. After months of failed negotiations, after peace talks in Islamabad collapsed without a single agreement, the United States issued a deadline. Not a warning, a deadline. 72 hours. And the moment those words were spoken, three things moved simultaneously. Oil prices up. Shipping insurance rates up. And something you won't see on any news ticker. The quiet, deliberate repositioning of the world's largest pools of money. Away from risk, away from exposure, away from the assets most ordinary people hold. But here's the problem. Everyone is watching the warships. The real story is happening in bank vaults. Let's follow the chain, because somewhere in this chain, your name appears. Step 1. The world's largest shipping insurers, companies most people have never heard of, Guard and Scald, they write something called war risk clauses into every maritime policy on Earth. The moment a waterway is classified as an active conflict zone, coverage is canceled. Not negotiated, canceled automatically. No insurance means no captain sails, not because of danger, because of liability. This leads to a freeze on global shipping. This leads to scarcity of goods already in short supply. This leads to prices rising across every category that oil touches. And oil touches everything. Fertilizer, medicine packaging, plastics, the foam in your mattress, the tires on your car, the container your food was shipped in, everything. This leads to inflation, not the manageable kind, the kind that already happened in 2022. When Russia invaded Ukraine, oil hit $130 a barrel, and inflation reached levels not seen since 1981. The Federal Reserve panicked. They raised interest rates at the fastest pace in 4 decades. And that rate surge wiped $8 trillion from global financial markets. Your retirement account felt it. Your home equity felt it. Your savings rate felt it. And that was Ukraine, a country that produces 3% of global oil. The Strait of Hormuz controls 21%. Now here's where it gets dangerous. The price spike doesn't wait for a missile to be fired. It starts the moment the market believes it's coming. Markets don't react to events, they react to expectations. And right now, expectations are moving faster than any navy in the world. I need you to pause for 1 second. Because everything I just told you, the shipping insurance, the oil spike, the inflation chain, that's the story everyone will eventually cover. That's the surface. What's underneath is the part that changes everything. And almost no one is talking about it. For 50 years, one invisible rule has governed every economy on Earth. If you want oil, you pay in dollars. This is the petrodollar system. It's the reason America can carry a $33 trillion national debt without collapsing. It's the reason your savings account, denominated in dollars, has international purchasing power. It's the reason the United States can fund its military, its healthcare, its infrastructure by simply printing currency that the entire world is forced to absorb. The petrodollar isn't just an economic policy. It's the foundation that every dollar you own is standing on. Now here's the twist. That foundation has been cracking for 3 years. And this 72-hour deadline might be the stress test that shows the world exactly how deep those cracks go. Here is what has already happened. Not theory, not prediction, already happened. China and Saudi Arabia, America's most important Gulf ally, began settling oil trades directly, without dollars. In 2023, this was confirmed and reported in the Wall Street Journal. Russia and India began trading oil in rupees, documented. The BRICS nations, representing 40% of the world's population, formally announced a working group to develop a dollar alternative for international trade. On the record. None of this was secret. All of it was underreported. And this is why the 72-hour deadline is not just a military moment. It is a credibility test. Because every country in the world that depends on Gulf oil is watching right now. And they are all asking the same silent question. If America cannot guarantee the free flow of oil through the Strait of Hormuz, why should we keep our oil trade denominated in American dollars? That question has no good answer, and the countries asking it are already preparing for the answer they expect. This is why institutional investors, sovereign wealth funds, the largest hedge funds, the kind of money that moves quietly before news breaks, have been accumulating hard assets for months. Gold is near all-time highs, documented. Oil futures are being bought aggressively, documented. And digital assets that exist outside any single government's jurisdiction are holding value under conditions that would normally cause panic selling. This isn't speculation. This is capital flow data available on Bloomberg terminals right now. The money that knows things first is moving. The question, and this is the question that will define your next decade financially, is whether you are moving with it or waiting for the news to tell you when it's too late. But here's what nobody is telling you about that movement. It's not just about profit. It's about survival. Because when reserve currency systems shift, and they have shifted before, from the British pound to the US dollar in 1944, the people who didn't see it coming didn't just lose money, they lost decades. That question, that simple, innocent question, is the most important economic indicator in the world right now. Because when children start asking it, the crisis is no longer theoretical. It's already inside your home. Let's make this real. Not headlines, not percentages. Your life, hour by hour. Hour zero. The deadline passes. No deal. Oil markets open in Asia before America wakes up. Futures traders, people who have been positioned for this for weeks, they don't wait. They execute. Oil spikes $15 in a single session. Hour 12. Airlines announce emergency fuel surcharges. Shipping companies send notices to retail partners. Your online order that was coming Thursday has no new date. Hour 24. Gas stations in the Midwest and Southeast begin voluntary allocation. Not out of supply yet, but the supply chain that refills them runs on confidence, and confidence just disappeared. Hour 48. Grocery chains begin limiting bulk purchases. Not a shortage, a precaution. But precautions look identical to shortages from the inside of a supermarket. Regular unleaded, $5.80. Eggs, $9 a dozen. Your savings account interest rate, still 4.5%. Your purchasing power, down 30%. Your bills, unchanged. Your paycheck, unchanged. But the distance between those two numbers, the distance between what you earn and what life costs, just got wider. Quietly, invisibly, permanently. This doesn't happen to abstract people in economic reports. It happens to the family that was already stretching the budget before any of this started. It happens to the person who did everything right, saved, invested, planned, and still woke up one morning to find the math no longer worked. So where does this end? There are three paths forward. Only one protects your financial life. Path 1. A last-minute agreement. The deadline extends. Markets exhale. Oil retreats. Life returns to something close to normal. This is possible. Diplomacy has pulled back from edges like this before. Path 2. Limited action. Targeted military response. The strait stays technically open, but under threat. Oil stays elevated. Inflation stays embedded. The Federal Reserve stays paralyzed between fighting inflation and protecting growth. Your cost of living stays elevated. Not temporarily, structurally, for years. Path 3. Extended disruption. Global shipping crisis. Recession trigger. A dollar credibility event. The scenario that Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Bank of America have all published private client warnings about. Warnings that never appear on the evening news because the evening news is not written for clients with assets to protect. Three paths. But here is the question none of them answer. The one question that this 72-hour deadline cannot resolve no matter what happens next. What happens to the system when enough countries decide that American dominance is a risk they can no longer afford to depend on? That question has no 72-hour deadline. It has been building for a decade. And the answer to it will determine what your savings are worth, not this week, but for the rest of your life. Here is what I want you to sit with. The Strait of Hormuz has never fully closed, not once in modern history. Navies have fought over it, nations have threatened it, but it has never closed. And yet, the petrodollar system that gives your savings their value has been losing ground for 3 consecutive years. Quietly, without a single missile being fired. One of those facts is on the news tonight. The other one is in your bank account. The 72-hour clock isn't a countdown to war. It's a mirror. And what it's reflecting is a world that has already started changing, while most people were waiting for permission to notice. The billionaires didn't wait for the news. The sovereign funds didn't wait for the news. The only people still waiting